Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I realized I didn't do an intro or like tell you guys who it was in my first video or in the 24-hour readathon. I'm not sure which one is gonna go up first, but that one's already filmed and I'm editing it right now. So I thought I would introduce myself before we do a wrap up for September. So my name's Risha, I'm 22, I live in Melbourne. I'm currently in a very awkward stage in my life where I'm just waiting for my next degree to start and I'm not working. So I have a lot of free time on my hands and I thought that I would channel that free time and make a booktube account with it. I don't really follow very many Aussie booktubers. So if you have any Aussie booktuber recommendations, I literally only watch one and I love watching her videos, but I just want more, you know? So if you have any Aussie booktuber recommendations, please drop them down below. I would love to I'd love to watch them because all of the booktubers I currently watch are American. And while that's awesome, obviously no issues with that whatsoever. Just want to diversify my options as well. Anyway, that's regardless of anything else. But let's talk about my books in September. So I read 17 books in September, which is so many for me. I usually read like 10. But I did a 24-hour readathon this month. So I read like 12 or 13 books in that readathon. So out of the 17 books that I read, let's do some statistics. Got 4 YA books, which is actually quite high for me. I don't really read a lot of YA. I'm usually a mystery and like romance girly and also fiction, but just not very much YA. Anyway, 6 romances, 4 mystery thrillers, and 5 lit fic / general contemporary fiction books. 5 books were either audiobooks or like part audiobooks, and then 5 books were ebooks as well, which were either on my Kindle or my Kobo or like half read online and then half read physically. But yeah, I've split up the books into genres because I thought it would be easier to discuss that way. So let's maybe start with general / literary fiction. So I read Black Cake this month. I reviewed this quite a bit in my 24-hour readathon, so I'm not gonna go into too much depth about this. The main reason why I read it is because it's becoming a TV show and I like to read books before they become TV shows, because otherwise if I watch the show I won't read the book after. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but I need to read the book well in advance, otherwise I will not be picking up the book. Besides having the most stunning cover ever, Black Cake is an intergenerational kind of saga-like story. It's kind of similar to Pachinko if you've read Pachinko. It's not as big as Pachinko and it's kind of less dense, I would say. But it was absolutely beautifully written. I found it very slow in the beginning, not gonna lie. It was a bit like, what is happening? Where is the story going? I don't really feel connected to any of the characters, but I really got into it like halfway through. I still wasn't very much connected to the children characters, so I didn't even tell you what this book is about. Oh my god. It's basically about this mum who dies, and when she dies, she leaves a recording, an audio recording for her children to listen to. And so half of the book is the children's POV dealing with the grief of their mum, and the other half is the actual recording. I did not really connect to the children. Even at the end of the book, I was like, I don't really feel like these people, I don't really care about the kids so much, but I really love the recording written by the mum. I thought that was absolutely beautifully done. I think 3.5 stars. I know I gave it a different rating in my readathon, but I think I was just like kind of just out of the book and I was like, oh, it's amazing. But now like sitting on it, I would definitely say 3.5 stars for this book. It's really well written, but I will be recommending it to people, but I'm not raving about it, you know? I feel like for a book to be 4 stars, I need to be raving about it at least. But anyway, Black Cake, solid book right there. The next contemporary fiction book I read was The Rachel Incident. This is a book I will be raving about. I loved The Rachel Incident. I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 originally. I'm gonna say 4.5 or like 4.75. It was beautifully written though. It was so funny. It was so punchy. It's basically about a main character called Rachel. She's Irish. She is in uni as well. Gotta add that in there. And she lives with her best mate, James, and she has a crush on one of her professors. So James and her work at a bookstore and she's like, oh, my professor's coming out with a book. let's like make a book launch for him so I can like see more of him, you know, and spend time with him. And James is like, that's a great idea, let's do that. So they do that, and the story kind of moves on from there. It is so well done. It was so funny. It was so thought-provoking. There was a political element in this book as well, about like abortion rights, and it was in there enough that we could kind of like feel like, okay, like there is a political element, but it wasn't overpowering or overshadowing the story in any way. This was also the Shameless book club pick for August, so I'm like a bit late, but I prefer to read them afterwards so that I can just like listen to the episodes as soon as I'm done with the book rather than having to wait. But all in all, a fantastic book. If you love, I think I want to say like if you like Sally Rooney, but it's not as like, it's not as like deep, I want to say, as Sally Rooney. It's similar, but it's not as deep. It's a lot funnier and a bit lighter. So I don't know maybe if you like Dolly Alderton's Ghosts, I think it's similar to that. But like, I think it's better than Ghosts, but it's similar vibe, if that makes sense. Even if you don't like Ghosts, I think you should pick this up. It's a really lovely read. I really enjoyed it. Enough about that one. I don't have to ramble. The next book I read was Alone with You in the Ether. I do not like this book very much. It's by Olivia Blake, who is quite a popular author. She's mostly a fantasy author. I think this is her only like romance or like a fiction book. I want to start out by saying this book was really, really well written. She is a very intelligent, well written woman. I couldn't, like, it felt like there was just so many words, and it was just, there's like, for me, there's like well-written fiction, and then there's just like putting a bunch of big words together and sounding really nice and sounds really smart, but like I don't actually know what's going on. And this kind of fell into that category. It is a romance book essentially, and it's about Ronaldo and Reagan. Reagan is mentally ill. She's an artist. She has a boyfriend, and she meets Ronaldo, and he is a mathematician. I'm not sure about this because I don't think it's explicitly mentioned, but I did feel like she was alluding to the fact that maybe he was on the spectrum, but I don't know. So if you read this book and you think that, definitely let me know. But I just didn't like this book. Can I give it like a 2.5 maybe, because that's like exactly halfway. I don't think I'll read any more of her work, honestly. But yeah, not a fan of this one. The cover is absolutely beautiful though. Like, look at that. Like it's like gold. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like gold on the side. Stunning. But that's pretty much my favorite thing about the book. All right. Let's go to romance, I think. Yeah, romance. All right. This next book was also The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. I started this book at the beginning of September, and I literally had to force myself to finish it. Again, solid like 2.5 stars. And honestly, it would be 2 stars, but the ending, and when I mean ending, like literally only the last 50 pages, I was a little bit invested, but that is it. This book is duo timelined. I feel like I need to tell you guys what these books are about before just discussing my thoughts. So this book is about a girl who is recently divorced. Her grandmother is a really famous romance author. So think like Nora Roberts vibes. And she dies, right? And she has one unfinished manuscript, and obviously someone has to write up that book because they want to publish it. So they employ a male romance author, things like Nicholas Sparks vibe, and he has a reputation for writing really heart-wrenching endings, and she likes that. She wants this ending to be heart-wrenching, right? Because she's a realist and she's like Miss Independent. I don't know where Miss Independent goes into that, but like she's just that vibe of person that that's like, oh, like endings aren't always happy, like make it gut-wrenching. She's read the manuscript, obviously, and so they both kind of working together to finish the grandmother's manuscript. That's half of the story. The other half of the story is the actual manuscript. So you're reading the grandmother and the story that she's written, which is, I want to say not entirely biographical, but like biographical fiction, and it was really boring. I did not care about the historical timeline at all. I was disconnected. They're basically 4 main characters, right? So the couple in the historical timeline and the couple in the current day timeline. I didn't care for all 4 of them. I don't know, it was just too insta-lovey. I feel like we didn't really know the characters well, because every time I got like, oh, like I feel for this character, we just jump into the next chapter, which like it skips, if that makes sense. So I never really felt connected to anyone. And like I said, the ending is good, which is why it's not 2 stars and it's 2.5 stars. But I know a lot of people love this book. So I think if you like sad romances and like gut-wrenching romances, you're gonna like it, because a lot of people like it. Like, it literally says the global TikTok sensation on the top. It was just not for me. Okay, next I read the Bromance book club. This was really, really fun. I think I discussed this more in depth in the other video, so I'm not going to go too much into it. I would say this is maybe sitting at a 3.75 for me. Not quite a 4 stars, but still really good. It's a really nice romance. It's basically about this married baseball player whose wife decides to leave him, and he gets together with his friends because he's like, I don't want my wife to leave me. And they're like, we got you. So they take him to this like underground book club where Nashville's like elite men all sit down and discuss how to keep their wives. So fascinating. They read Regency romance novels, and they kind of take tips from the novels and apply it to their wives in real life. And it was fine. It was good. I wouldn't be like, oh my god, I love this book, you have to read it. But like, it's nice. It was a good one. If you're picking it up, I wouldn't stop you. This is the book that I'm gonna be like, oh my god, you have to read this book. I loved When in Rome. I loved it so much. It's by Sarah Adams, who's written The Cheat Sheet, which is also very popular, and Practice Makes Perfect. But I have a feeling this is her most popular book because it's her best. Everything about this book was absolute chef's kiss. You can see, like, I've tabbed it as well, and I don't really tab my romance novels. We follow Amelia Rose. You can tell that I'm a complete idiot sometimes, because I'll be like, I love this book, and I couldn't tell you the main character's name. We follow Amelia Rose, who is a pop star, and she is like, I'm sick of my life, I need a break. So she drives, and she gets to Rome, Kentucky, and her car breaks down, and obviously there's like a brooding hunk of a man waiting for her and helping her with the car, because that's how romance novels work. And she's like, can I stay? Like, she's like, I'm looking for a place to stay. And he's like, stay with me. He doesn't really say that. He's like, you can stay with me for the night and we'll go get you a motel tomorrow. And then they go get a motel, and the motel owner is like, oh, sorry, like, I don't have any space, because she's trying to get them together. So she ends up living with him in a small town. He's also a baker. Like, it's got everything. It's like Grumpy Sunshine, small town romance. I just love when someone in a book is a baker. Like, I just love it. It just makes me happy, right? It could be the male, it could be the female. If there's baking involved in the story, I'm probably going to enjoy it. And I very much enjoyed this one. Not like a 5 out of 5 romance, because I don't think there was enough depth in it for there to be a 5 out of 5, but like 4.5. Absolutely amazing. If you're considering picking this one up, do yourself a favor. Do me a favor and read the book for me. Loved it. Okay, the next romance I read was on my Kindle. It is Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is the author of The X Talk, I think, and I read this from Libby. And I think it was fine. I honestly can't remember much about it. It's basically about this woman who's a ghostwriter, and she is ghostwriting for this really famous TV show star. It's like Vampire Diaries, right? So he starred in like a different world, obviously. It's like a different kind of Vampire Diaries. And then obviously he's like not famous anymore because he hasn't done much since, but they want to write him a autobiography because they're trying to like create marketing for the revamp of the show. So she's the ghostwriter for him. But before she meets him and she realizes she's his ghostwriter, they also have a one-night stand. This is all in the blurb. If it's not in the blurb, it's in the first few. Like, this is a premise of the story, so it's not really a spoiler. I think this book was fine. Again, like, the romances I read this month were not that amazing except for When in Rome. Very average romance. I'm gonna say like 3.5 stars again. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I really, really liked the X Talk. I thought that was much better. But I don't think I'll be picking anything else up from Rachel Lynn Solomon unless people say it's like fantastic. But if you want to read a book by her, read the X Talk. The next 2 books I read were complete opposites of each other, but were in the same series, and that is the Eden series by Devney Perry. I read book 1 and book 2. Book 1, super fun, right? There was a mystery subplot and a romance subplot. So our main character is a police officer. She moves to a small town. She meets a guy who's like a part of the founding family of a small town, which is very common, I realized, because I was watching a TikTok about a girl who lives in the US, and she's like, yeah, like, I live in a small town and we have multiple founding families. And I'm like, I thought that was a thing only in books. It's real. America's wild. Like, imagine having a family that just made a town. Anyway, she meets him and they obviously fall in love, as in, like, not initially, but like they think each other's hot, so they start sleeping together and then they fall in love. But she's also a cop, right? So there's a mystery that needs to be solved. I really enjoyed it. It was like, it wasn't anything special. Like, it wasn't like, oh my god, I'm addicted. Like, but it was like really fun. It was well written. It was well paced. The characters were like fleshed out enough to be realistic. There was a little bit of like, not mental health awareness, but like health awareness in general, and health representation. Like, one of the characters has dementia. So I thought that was really well done. I really liked it, and I was like, amazing. Like, this book has like, this series has 7 books. I'm gonna read the next one. I was deeply disappointed with the next one. It was Juniper Hill. I think that's what it's called. It was so bad, guys. It was so bad. We follow another brother in the series, the second oldest, I think. Couldn't even tell you his name. I think his name is Knox, but I don't know. The girl's name is Memphis, which is just weird. Is that a name? Like, is that an American name, Memphis? Because I thought it was a town. Like, I find it really weird that they name people after, like, cities and towns. Like, imagine naming someone, like, Ichuka. I don't know. I found that weird. Anyway, she's called Memphis. She's from New York, but she has some shit with her family and she's sick of living that life, and she has a little baby, which was cute. The baby was cute. And she moves to Quincy to like escape New York. And she's set up with Knox because she's working for Knox's sister in Knox's sister's hotel as a housekeeper. So this is a rich, like, socialite woman who went to an Ivy League and who's from New York, who decides enough is enough, I want to be a maid in Montana. It's already giving like really unrealistic vibes. Like, I'm thinking of like Alexis Rose going to Schitt's Creek. Like, it's just not, anyway. It's unrealistic. It's insta-lovey. I didn't like the main guy. He was just so annoying. The baby was fine, but like, I feel like the baby was only used for like a plot point. And other than that, it really was not required. Like, I just hated the book so much. I'm gonna give it like 1 star. I don't really rate books 1 star, but I will not be continuing with the series. If you have read the Indigo Ridge Eden series and it gets better from the second book, like if the first book is not the best one and there's other ones that compare, tell me which ones and I'll just read those ones. But otherwise, I'm not interested. Okay, I think those are all the romances I read. So let's move on to the YA books. First up, Serious Moonlight by Jenn Bennett. Jenn Bennett wrote Alex Approximately, which is by far the better one when you compare these two. This book is about a girl who lives in Seattle. She is obsessed with mysteries, and so she tries to work in a hotel that has a historical mystery in it. Like from like old, like I want to say an old Hollywood mystery, and she gets a job in that hotel. Now, anyone who has ever read a book before would think, oh, like the story is about her trying to solve that mystery. That mystery is like talked about and that's it. Like, it's not spoken about again. Instead there's a boy and he's like, I've heard you like mysteries. I've got a mystery for you. They solve it. It's really silly. I did not like that. I thought the book would have been much stronger if she was the one that was like, I want to solve this old-timey mystery. And he's kind of helping her instead of him being the one to like he almost kind of forces her to like spend time with him because he likes her and she keeps saying no. So it was a bit icky. There's other problems with this book and I went more into it in my 24-hour readathon wrap up, but I can't remember what rating I gave it, but right now it's sitting at a fat 2.5. Would not recommend. Okay, next book I read, Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I really liked this book. This was really fun. I love anything by Marissa Meyer. I've loved her Cinder series, or like the Lunar Chronicle series, I should say. I think I'll finish Renegades, but in due time, you know? I think I'll read like one book a month or something like that. I don't need to binge it. It is essentially about these, I want to say they're all kids, in this like different world, a dystopia, I guess, and you're either born without powers or with superpowers, like the Avengers kind of. And if you are born with superpowers, you can either join the Renegades, who are like the good guys, like the Avengers, or you can be a rebel, which is like a villain force. And so our main character is obviously a villain. She has to be, but she has to figure out what's going on with the Renegades. So she wants to know. So she tries to do that. And that's basically 500 pages of what she's trying to do. Obviously, our other main character, who's the love interest, is a renegade. So they're like trying to get each other, like basically. And they're trying to figure out more about each other. And they're also like falling in love. It's kind of sweet. It was fun. It was a fun time. I'd give this one like a solid like 3.75. Fun book. We'll continue the series, but like I'm not in a rush to, you know? Okay, next up, Not Here to Be Liked by Michelle Quach. Really nice book. I want to say 4 out of 5 stars. It is about our main character, whose name eludes me right now, Eliza Kwan. There we go, we got it. She has been basically working her entire high school career to become the editor of the school newspaper. And she does not become the editor of the school newspaper. They elect this man instead, who is someone that just started the school newspaper. And she's like, I'm more qualified than he is. And he was like, yeah, but no one likes you because you're like, tell people what to do and women aren't allowed to be bossy. Like, you have to be nice. And she's like, that's not fair. And obviously this is a very simplistic rundown of what happens. But this book is about like feminism, which I thought was really fun. Like the romance is a very big subplot, but it's a subplot. Like it's not the main part of the story. So if you love a good YA book that talks about serious issues, I would definitely pick this one up. I'm also reading another book right now that is so similar to this one. So if you have read this book and you like this book, send me a message and I will tell you what the other book is. But I don't want to like spoil it because it's going to be in my next month's wrap up, or like I'm going to tell you guys about it in a reading vlog. But I've really enjoyed this one. The Australian cover is very ugly. Like it's not as nice as this one, so it doesn't look like this in bookstores. If you're Australian, I got this copy when I was in the US, but I would definitely recommend picking that one up. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I picked this book up because my mum came back from work one day and she was like, I had Lessons in Chemistry, was really good. Do you have it? And I was like, no, but like we can go pick it up next time. So the next day we're in Kmart and it was for $12 and I was like, let's get it. I'll read it and I'll give it to you. And then I read it like that day. I love this book. It was so much fun to read. It deserves all of the hype. Like it's like won some prizes. Maybe it's not won prizes. I think it's like, it was like the Barnes & Noble Book of the Year, I think, for last year. But really fun book. I don't really want to tell you what it's about. A quick summary is it's about a female chemist in the 60s. And she gets a TV show about making dinner because she's a chemist. Like she knows food chemistry and she cooks really well. So they give her a TV show and she hates it because she's just a chemist and she just wants to do science, but she needs to pay the bills. It was fantastic. It was so well written. It was kind of funny at times. I loved all of the characters. There's a doggo as well. And most pressing for me is it's becoming a TV show with Brie Larson and I'm going to be watching it. I think it's coming out this month. So I really like this book. 4.5 out of 5, I think. Okay, let's move on to the ebooks. I read 9 Liars by Maureen Johnson, which is a YA mystery. quick summary. It was nice. It wasn't as good as the rest of the Truly Devious series. So it's the 5th book in the series and it was like fine. Really nothing to write home about. There were way too many characters and I was way too confused. If you want to read the Truly Devious series, just read the first 3 books. I would honestly stop after that. I don't think I'll be continuing with the series. I think I said I would in the 24-hour readathon, but like thinking about it now, I don't think I will. Okay. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. Ocean Vuong is, I think, a poet mostly, but he's written this book and he's done a mighty good job of it. It is, I want to say, a long form essay. Beautiful. It's phrased as letters to his mother, but she's never gonna read these, is what he says. So it's like, I'm writing to my mum, but I know she'll never read it. It's really nice. It's really short, but there's so many beautiful lines. Like, I fully tabbed it as well. Highly recommend if you're looking for like a beautiful read, but you don't want to spend too much time reading. Really nice one. Very thought-provoking as well. Okay, the last physical book I have with me is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This book is coming out in October. I want to say like October 2nd, which is tomorrow, but I went to a bookstore today and I saw it in one of the bookstores. So maybe it's already out. I'm not quite sure. I got it as a, I guess an ARC, but it's just a finished copy, but I got it like a couple of weeks before release date. It is about Ted Bundy, but it's done really well, as in they don't mention the name Ted Bundy in this book even once. He's called the defendant or the serial killer because the author doesn't want to give him any more publicity, and you can kind of tell that's what it is from the way the book is written. But we follow the Florida University sorority murder. So if you guys aren't familiar with Ted Bundy, I wasn't really, because I just don't think we should be giving him any attention. He murdered 2 women. He murdered 1 woman and then attacked 3 women, but 2 of them survived in a sorority house. These women were younger than I am. They were 21. And so we follow one of the people who saw him, but like wasn't attacked by him, and her story. And it was so interesting. I think it was well written and it was an interesting novel. And if you're a true crime girly, I think you'll really, really enjoy this. But it was marketed to me as like a thriller or like a murder, like, but it's not really, because you know who the murderer is. You know that they're gonna, like, you know what's gonna happen. So it's not like thrilling. It's more like dealing with the victims and the aftermath of like losing your friends. And I think that that is what we should be doing when we talk about serial killers. Like, we should be focusing on the victims and how horrible it was for them to recover, not on Ted Bundy. And this whole narrative that Ted Bundy is like a really smart man, like a genius. That's bullshit. Like, and she totally like dissects that in the book. She says multiple times that he's not smart. He's just cruel. Like, he wants you to think that he's smart. He wants you to like discuss the murders and the trauma caused in depth. He wants you to talk about him, but he's not that smart. Like, he did so many things that were just dumb, and allowed him to get caught. But he's just given this whole label of, I'm a really smart man, you know? Anyway, that's my Ted Bundy rant over. But I really like this book. I think I'm going to give it like 3.75 stars. I thought it was really well written. I'll have a full review up on my Instagram if you're interested. But I think those are all the books I read. Oh my god, I literally forgot to talk to you guys about my favorite book this month. I can't believe I forgot about it. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I'm going to put a screenshot of a text chain I have up here with my friend who I told to read this book, and she read it in one afternoon. I read it in one afternoon. It is absolutely amazing. If you're taking anything away from this video, go read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. It's out now in both Australia and the US. Hayley Farm also has recommended this book. So if you don't believe me, at least believe her. It's about this woman who has a podcast, and she, on her 45th birthday, meets another woman who's having her 45th birthday at the same restaurant. and they're like, oh my god, we're birthday twins. And this other woman, her name was Tracy, she finds her a couple of days later and she's like, hey, like I know you have a really famous podcast. Do you want to do a story about me? Because I have a really interesting life and we can kind of frame it around being birthday twins. And Alex, who's the podcast host, is like, yeah, that's actually a pretty decent idea. Let's do that. And they do that and they figure out more about Josie. And it's just so good. Like, I was sitting there like, what is happening? The end of the book, I truly have no idea what is false and what is true. The name of the book stands tall. Like, I don't know what the reality is. It is so good. I was thinking about it for days. I gave it to another, so I told one of my friends to read it and then I gave it to another friend as well. So that's why I don't have it with me. It was beautiful. And then the last book that I forgot to discuss is Never Lie by Freida McFadden. This is the last Freida McFadden book I'm going to read because it's the third one I've read of hers and I didn't really like it. It was a very predictable plot and then the end there was a twist and I was just kind of like, oh, this is a silly twist, you know? It was fine, but I think if you're looking to read a Freida McFadden, read The Housemate and The Housemate's Secret and don't really read anything else. If you guys have read another book by her and you think that it's like better than None of This Is True, or sorry, better than Never, I'm so tired, better than Never Lie, let me know. But I will not be continuing. Anyway, thank you all for watching my wrap up. I really hope you enjoyed it and you got some out of it, and the sun is literally set, so that's fun. Anyway, I'll see you guys in my next video. I hope you have a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching this. Please subscribe or like or comment, whichever one you feel like doing. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.